Welcome to Idea Citizen. Today I'm speaking with Alan McLaren around personal branding, specifically that it's not a luxury. It's somewhat of a necessity. The thing that I think is particularly very interesting is like your timing, because like we're kind of like in this, of course, social media has been around for quite a bit of time, but it's also we're falling into like this whole creator world and creator economy and people finding different ways of promoting and branding themselves. I think that's particularly relevant to your expertise. So I'm really excited to kind of get into this conversation for me selfishly and then just generally for just anybody that's actually listening. So Alan, if you could provide a, quick introduction to yourself.
Of course. My name is Alan McLaren. I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec in Canada, and now I live in Oakville, Ontario, just outside Toronto. My background, I started in sales and marketing, like a lot of people did early in my career, which was a long time ago, as you can see from the gray hair.
For
And then
anyone
I
that
started
doesn't isn't watching the video, Alan has some nice like salt and pepper hair. It's great.
I'm an old guy, so yeah, old guy in look, but mostly not in spirit. But I started down that road and got my first executive job, my first president's job so this will age me in '99, and I joined an organization called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, which was life changing for me. It's a leadership organization of I think 140 countries, 35,000 members, all presidents and CEOs of companies. So wonderful organization. And then I went through five different president's jobs over the ensuing 20 years or so, and then 20 years ago joined or started a marketing agency, which has got me on the path to where I am today in personal branding. And so on the marketing agency, we started it in 2005 with a business partner, Leanne, and we did everything you could dream of in marketing. That started with PR and we started to touch on, it wasn't called personal branding back then, but helping people become thought leaders. But it was more speeches and writing and profiles and resumes and nothing really like it is today. And we had a 20-year run and then kind of looked at the marketing agency and said, there's something more here. Let's dig in and find out a little bit more about this personal branding. So 3 years ago, we started it as a product inside our company and then spun it out as a business. And COVID was a big part of that because, as a lot of agencies know, we lost 95% of our business in 48
Thanks.
hours. COVID hit. So we said, okay, we need to find a pivot. I hate to use that word because everybody uses it, but we did. And we pivoted to personal branding and now have productized it and made it an offer that we sell to CEOs. And that's what's brought us to today. And I have been so recharged, Jackie, around this personal branding thing. And I'm excited to talk to you about it today.
Regarding personal branding too, I think you have a unique opportunity, just the people that you end up meeting. How do I say this? Like you kind of get like a certain type of person that is looking to make an investment in their personal branding and trying to understand it for themselves. And I assume, I mean, I'll speak for myself, while they're these aspirations, like I'm trying to figure out what my personal brand even is. I'm like, well, there's all these things, but then that's confusing for other people. Like, what does that mean? So I think like simplifying and clarifying that narrative, because I don't think, I don't know, like, yes, I'm good at marketing. Yes, I do project management. Yes, I'm working on Idea Citizen, but I'm like, if I'm going to be doing Idea Citizen, like, I need to focus on that. And like, these other things will support it. But having that as part of the dialogue is confusing. And like, yes, we're all multifaceted, but like, I think we have to consider ourselves as a channel with like, this is what what you can generally expect as a person from this person. So, Alan, what is personal branding? Like, how would you even define it?
Yeah. Well, the simplest thing is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? What do they say about you? What are the attributes? What do they describe you as? And how do they feel about you? Because that's important too, because we're all emotional and human. And then, is it congruent with what you want the world to know? That's really the starting point, right? And say, okay. And we do that in a very systematic way. So you find out for yourself, what am I known for? What's my credibility? So do people know me? And I'll give you an example. So when I started this journey on doing my own personal brand as well, I had my leadership experience in YPO because I did a lot of work inside the organization. And then I had my marketing expertise. So I said, I'm going to try videos on both and see what happens. Well, I got crickets for the marketing expertise. Nobody cared, but they did care about my leadership experience. So they saw me that way. So then I kind of doubled down on that. And of course, subsequently added personal branding to that. So everybody has to figure that out, how you're seen is not always how you think you're seen. And so the starting point is, what's my credibility? And then let's just look at your example. The Idea Citizen is a passion. It started as a passion project and is now evolving into something bigger. That is all that here's the common denominator is you. You're the common denominator. So it's not separate from you. It is part of you. And you may change and morph and do all those things, but your personal brand, to answer that question, is everything you're interested in is you, is your personal brand. Because people invest in you. And then what we say is, okay, great. I'm good with that. How do I become intentional about sharing my passions and knowledge with the world so that they come to me for whatever it is that I'm good at? That's how I would kind of frame it.
Yeah, I like that. Why is it I mean, I guess I'm going to ask the question because I want to hear what you say, but like why is it important? I have thoughts in my head, but I'm like I want to hear it from you.
Not important for everybody, right? So if you're living in your passion, you've got all the money you need, your life and your family is good, and you can check all the boxes, and then you're good, right? But if any of those are missing, and say, okay, well, what's my means to an end? I may be running a business and I want to have more business. So how do I do that? Well, I build trust through my exercise on social media. And I could do that. And now I can attract employees, attract investors, make my bank happy because they see the outside of the business. So it is not for everybody, but I will say this. Your personal brand is the only thing that carries you through your life. We're identifying it as personal brand. Maybe call it reputation. That could be a word. So your reputation is carried through your life. Typically, you're not intentional about your reputation. You are who you are. But hopefully you're honest and you got values and you have a lot of love in your life. And whatever those things are, you want to express that to the world. The best quote we have, we borrowed from somebody that says, find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
Oh, I like this.
That's the
Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others.
that's the work we do. All the work we do is to position somebody to unlock what's in them and then express that through content and social and all this stuff that you know backwards. But if you don't start out with your letter on the right wall, you're not going to land where you want to land. So
You know,
that's how I
Alan,
would
like
kind of.
you're like I'm a marketer, I'm a leader, but it also feels you're like it's I'm taking from that like you're a big altruist. Like you're like, oh, I really like people to like feel good and live a great life, whatever that means, and build that life for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you, Jackie, what the biggest surprise when we started this work was. We came at it from marketing point of view, right? Stuff that you and I know cold, right? What we discovered is we were helping humans unlock what was important to them that they didn't even know was important. Why I may come across as altruistic is something that's why I said it charges me up because I'm helping people unlock stuff inside them that helps them create a new business, get out there, overcome their fears. So it's stuff I never even realized that would be part of what I do. It's the most important part of what I do now. So that's why it's exciting and everybody has a story and every leader has a story. It's just you don't think your story is that cool. And oh, by the way, it probably is.
Okay, I love that because that kind of leads into the next like, kind of what I want to talk about. So like how does one determine their brand? You're like, I think if you're somewhat humble, if you're not, an egomaniac, I think you're like, oh, this is no big deal, this and that. And then it's interesting because you sit at a table, say, with like your nearest and dearest friends or colleagues, like people that you respect. And I think we see other people through a very different lens than we see ourselves. So like if somebody like an executive like an accidental executive accidental leader like they fall into this position that they're like, all right, I need to like, kind of build up this personal brand, but like what do I have to say? Like where do you start? Like what, like is there an exercise somebody can do?
Yeah, so here's what I'll do is at the end of the podcast, we'll get my email and people who want a worksheet that we can send them a worksheet afterwards that helps them kind of figure that out themselves. So that'll be a gift that it's Christmas time, so let's give some gifts away,
Let's
right?
do it. Ho ho
Um,
ho.
but what we really we hone in on really not a resume, but first of all, what is your expertise? So what are you really good at? And what do people know you as? And remember, in the case of the example I gave you, my expertise was marketing and I had expertise in leadership, but I didn't think that was a thing. So really understand that distinction, and that's where the credibility came in. What am I known for? So my friends know me as pretty good at marketing, really good at personal branding, pretty decent at leadership, and kind of a loving, giving human. And that's the things that are important to me and important family man, because I've been married for 40 years, have two kids, everything's wonderful, and that, is the biggest check mark you can have in your life. That's all part of your personal brand, because it's not just business. It's that, when you're not in the room and they say, "Hey, tell me about Jackie," what are they going to say, Jackie? And are they saying it the way you want them to say it? So the starting point is expertise, skills, and something we haven't talked about. What are you passionate about?
Yeah. Okay, well, sure. Let's back up though. Like, okay, so I think there's probably going to be a disconnect for some people. It's like, and we talked about it a little bit before, but like what you think you're good at and like what you're, actually known for. So, like, when you came to where you are today, like, did you like survey your friends or your like closest network and everything? Like, how did you actually deduce where you needed, like, at least how other people saw you versus how you saw yourself?
Well, I did the testing myself with those videos, right? So that was the starting point. But I had also the privilege of working in the YPO world. So call it a mastermind group, or everybody has kind of a close circle of friends. You do the work yourself on what I just talked about. Say, okay, let me make sure I'm really clear on what it is. Then go to your closest friends and say, is this kind of what you see? And if the answer is, well, Jackie, I kind of see you here. I mean, people love you. I mean, I even saw some, your comments on your page, right? And people love you, Jackie. We support you with great word support. Like that tells you all about that I need to know about you is you have an audience that is just in your corner. Well, that tells me a lot about you. And then learning about your expertise and credibility says, okay, this is how I can work with Jackie if it is an economic reason I want to do it, or do I just want to spread a passion message? So you can use your friends, your family, your closest relationships. They'll be honest with you and say, you know what, we're pretty close. And you can also do psychological tests and find out, if those things kind of are congruent. But the most fun is just landing on something where you're comfortable, starting to do the work and seeing how people react to it. You have instant market reach every
Yeah.
single day,
Yeah, right.
right? So that's how we do it every day.
And it's interesting you say it because let's talk, LinkedIn. I think that there's this recent, and I don't know how recent exactly, but it's like I feel like there's this recent advent of these LinkedIn content creators. And of course, you've seen them on various different channels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm also deep in the echo chamber of LinkedIn right now, but it feels like this influencer, these thought leaders, it's a little newer from like a business standpoint on LinkedIn. And I mean, maybe this goes into like historical context, but it feels like historically, as you already kind of spoke to, that like in the past, it's been around speaking engagements, whatnot, I assume like writing books. But today it's also creating content on a day to day, maybe not day to day, but like on an ongoing basis for LinkedIn and highlighting your awareness and authority with whatever you're working on. And it's been interesting as I've started also kind of dabbling, just like you get to see the analytics. Like when I initially
yeah,
launched actually for Ideases and the flip of the branding, I was terrified. I got to tell you, I buried the lead. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't normally do anything publicly, but so I posted it to the group, let people know, invited people also if they wanted to join the podcast, what their angle would be. I posted it like it was maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock at night Pacific time. I was like, and on a Sunday, I was like, nobody's gonna see this. I was like, that was my goal, as crazy as that is. And even that, there was tens of thousands of views on the content. And that's something that I was trying to do it, but I really didn't want I wanted to bury the lead, if I'm being totally honest. And then it
yeah,
didn't hurt as much, but there are plenty of people like I'm seeing like and they're leveraging the group, they're leveraging LinkedIn as a platform itself. The amount of views and authority that they've been able to get around their brand and leverage into, say if you're a recruiter, you're speaking about your expertise regarding recruiting, and then meeting new clients and making those inroads. People are doing it right and they're doing it well, but it's a little bit murky, and I think like knowing your personal brand is the key to it. So just, historically we're here today, but like, okay, so what was happening before all this stuff?
well, before everybody, you look at the platforms. LinkedIn was a recruiting platform. That's what it was, a job hunt, job place, right? That's where it started. But I think thought leadership evolved on LinkedIn and now has evolved to all the platforms. So even now, Blue Sky is now, a new Twitter kind of replacement. So the idea is, if you start thinking about the tool, and now LinkedIn has evolved to I think, a wonderful place where the average human now has a platform. Because
right?
before it was the Gary Vaynerchuk's and Richard Branson's,
Hmm.
but they were famous before they did that because, Gary Vaynerchuk's been at this for 25 years.
Sure.
And we
Yeah.
think he's, oh, he was just this. No, no, he was writing blogs when blogs were nothing. So, and he had Line TV and so he's been at this a long time. And now, literally, you could start today and a year have a platform
Yeah.
for free. Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? So it's democratizing the ability to communicate. But here's the fun part, Jackie. It's still 1% of the people on LinkedIn. It's 1% you and I see, but it's 1%. My job is to evangelize, to get, in my case, I work mostly with CEOs, almost all exclusively with CEOs. I want to get them out there to share their stories because their stories are transformational for people, to help them understand, when you give, you get a lot, but they're scared. Many CEOs, many people are afraid to push the button, do a video, and get out there. And my job, and Leanne's job, my business partner on our team, is to help people over that hump. And then they recognize that on the other side of that fear is some pretty cool stuff,
How do you get
that you
them
can
through that
achieve.
fear? Like, I'm sure part of it is, okay, hey, let's strategize. Like, hey, once you've gotten to the point of like, this is what we're talking about, this is what you're an expert on, then I anticipate there's like content verticals. Generally, let's call it like 4 content buckets. You can make something like under this umbrella of whatever it is. And maybe one of those content buckets is even just responding to the news of some relevant industry news and your commentary regarding that, which, I mean, to half of the job is done for you, which is kind of nice there. How do you get somebody over like their fears of this?
So it happens like 90, I'm being kind by saying 90, maybe 98% of the people we talk to, and these are accomplished executives. So all have this fear. So what we do is we break down the fear because fear is always irrational, right? In any context, it's never as bad as we think it is. So we walk them through the process, we walk them through the realities, we show them what it looks like, and then we practice. It's kind of like, if you're afraid of snakes, you need to be exposed to snakes. If you're afraid of flying, you need to be exposed to flying. If you're afraid of video, we need to practice video. So we'll do some, and it's easy to do because you can point this thing at your face. I'm holding up a cell phone, a mobile phone, or you can Zoom or whatever you choose to do and practice. And then show it to every single time they show it to their partner, their spouse, whatever. What do you think? Because the spouse will tell you the truth. You look like a fool. You look like an idiot. That's going to happen. But once they
I
get
don't want
over
that kind of
that
a
awkward
spouse.
little,
Not you look at an
no,
idiot, but like,
I
here's
don't
what,
either.
like, be gentle. It's like, I'd be like, hey, these are, I think, things that you can improve on. Be nice. Get the point across, but be
Yeah.
nice about it still.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny, right? So we record in batches, and I can get into that a little bit later. But we'll do, let's say, 6 and 12 videos in a seating. What we were blown away with, yeah, I'll then we say, look, approve the videos before we start posting on your social. Well, my wife needs to look at them first. My partner needs to look at. So these are CEOs. And so I'm just saying, there's a lot of that, and then once the validation comes, then all that melts away.
Yeah.
And then when they're out there, exactly your experience, Jackie, with that post, you had a fear, irrational fear, based on what you've built for this platform. You did it. You were scared to do it. You did it. And now you're going, that was pretty good. Now you're not going to be afraid of it, right?
I
That's the
wouldn't even
same
go as
idea.
far
You
as it
might
was
not.
pretty good, but it just wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Honestly, even with like recording these podcasts, I'm like, okay, I'm not nearly as terrible as I built it up in my head. I'm like, give yourself a break sometimes. It's like the irrational feel initially when you're like, something's going to happen, you're going to end up on the street. And really, after we've gone through whatever we've gone through over the past, let's 5 years, we've experienced pretty bad things. And I think that we're kind of out of it a little bit with like a renewed sense of like, okay, I can do more than I even thought. So, or at least that's the hope.
And part of it is cheerleading too, and supporting and giving them the skill. Because when you learn, for example, when we teach people to do these kind of videos, we teach them, here's what you need to do, right? So you have to have a title, you have to have a hook, and we explain what the hook is. And I hate the word hook, but how you start your video to make people, kind of want to watch it. And then what story will you tell? to support the 1 or 2 points you want. That's not so bad. Why? Because I own the story. I'm the only one that knows the story. I'm comfortable. Now we teach them to keep it succinct, right? So you say, okay, I could tell the story, but 15 minutes later, no, we want a 2-minute video. So and then they learn that and they go, oh, and what a skill that they can take back to their job afterwards to go, I can now be succinct and make my points. And so that's the fun part. And then when they get over that, then they're unstoppable. It's the first recordings are the painful ones. After that, they're rocking.
To your point, I think that, once you're able to get to a succinct thought, it's building ultimately like trust and credibility. Although it maybe it takes a little bit of work to get to that, tight 2 minutes, but like the value of these videos, what do you feel like they're trying to like reinforce? Expertise, trust, credibility. I'm sure there's other things.
All of the above, right? So the first thing you do is got to set yourself the goal. The first question you ask me is to define it and why would you do it? Well, you do it based on, so if I use my example or your example, I'm doing it. One reason is to evangelize because I believe it's important that I'm in a position to be able to do that because there's not a lot of older folks, I won't say my age, but it's retirement age, and that have the expertise in social and business can talk to CEOs with credibility. So I feel I have a responsibility to help them understand you're not a Neanderthal anymore. You're not a Luddite. You can do this work. And oh, by the way, the 30 years you've had in business is so much experience for those people coming up behind you that you have a responsibility to do this work. Forget about what it might do for you. You have a responsibility to do that. So that's the first part of that. The second part is, well, some people come to me and says, well, I want to generate leads and grow my business. Great. Well, how are you building trust today? Well, my marketing team. Is that working? That's pretty hard, right? It's really hard to build trust, but people build trust with people. And if you're the conduit to that, when your salespeople now phone a prospect, I heard of you guys. Your CEO was on TikTok. That's the game we're playing. You have to decide what you're doing it for. And in all cases, you are teaching, you're never selling. As soon as you're selling, you're now crossing a line and you don't trust when you sell, right? Because people
No.
don't want to be sold to.
And
That's the game we're playing.
let me ask you this. So I think this conversation's kind of a little bit more acutely tied to executives. I like when I've seen the democratization of at least personal brand building within an organization. And what I mean by that is that it's not only the CEO. I think that leveraging other touch points within your organization to speak on your behalf. And granted, you have to yes, they have to have the talking points down and everything, or at least the knowledge base. But I also feel like, maybe like lighten up a little bit on the reins. But I think imploring other people to build their brand also as advocates for whatever you're doing within your organization. Maybe they don't want to become the CEO, but they really have an expertise on, say, like product road mapping or product building or I don't know, whatever it is. I just personally love when I see it. I see the thoughtfulness of commentary from all aspects of an organization and not just from the leadership arm of it.
You're singing from my songbook because here's the problem. I'll define the problem, and then what you've just illustrated is the solution. The problem is people believe that sharing company content is personal branding. It's not, right? Nobody cares on, my case about my latest press release about the business and how well it did. Nobody cares because it's my audience. My LinkedIn or social or whatever, any social is my audience. So when you democratize it, which is the right answer, that person is building trust with their 1,500 or 2,000 followers on LinkedIn. Ergo, always at the top is what they do for a living, who they work for, right? So you're always branding the company without ever saying a word. You're helping people. I want to teach you about project management. I want to teach you about product management. Whatever that thing, there's a niche audience for that. But you know how many companies do that well? If you found one, let me know. Because I haven't found them yet. I tell them, let me train you and your executive team. Let's get started. Well, and we get all that crap. And I will tell you, and I'll make a statement, and anybody try to challenge me on this. I believe if you train your executive team and a CEO on this stuff that we're talking about now, you will blow the doors off your revenue targets. Why? Because do the math with me. You have 2,000 LinkedIn followers. Do that times five executives. That's 10,000 people. They have access to hundreds of thousands of people through their secondary. You start doing the math. Can your marketing team reach those people? No. Jackie can talk to the audience, and you're doing that with Idea Citizen. You have that group of people that know you because you built this and built the brand over all these time. And now you're saying, okay, well, these are people that are looking for something else. How can I help them? That's the game we're playing. That's the opportunity at front of, but they're missing the boat.
Yeah, I
They're
agree.
missing
I
the
feel like
boat.
there's maybe this mindset of scarcity around this where it's like, no, like multiple people can't be doing this. Like it has to, it has to be me and only me. And I don't buy off on that. And it's not for me to determine for organizations, but I'm like I don't buy it. And I think it's a missed opportunity. And I think it looks like we both agree on that.
If a company, a corporation figures that out, they will dominate, but they don't see that because they A, don't understand it. And if the CEO's not doing it him or herself, then how are they going to bring that to the team?
Yeah.
So you got
So
to start with executives. That's how I start. There's obviously reasons for a lot of people in their careers to do it, but that's a separate
yeah.
conversation. But yeah.
So what's the next step? So let's say we get beyond somebody's like personal fears. We kind of we work on like what that actual brand is or what their, area of expertise and how people see them and how they kind of excel. When we get to the actual execution part of it, you're talking about like testing some videos and everything like what's the deliverable from a public standpoint? Like, so you've mentioned videos, but like, what else does that look like?
So we recommend exclusively video. Do you
Okay.
know why?
No.
It's the most authentic. It's the most authentic medium.
Okay.
That's all. Most authentic medium. And when you see somebody and you can see their face, see their smile, watch their hand gestures, see if they're real, that doesn't come across in words, doesn't come across in blogs. So those are okay to do, and we do that for our clients as well. But we recommend at least one video a week of 2 minutes sharing something of substance that can be helpful. And part of the challenge is this, the next 2 years, AI is going to, it already, if it's not ruling what we're doing, so then what's going to be real anymore? So even though you can clone
Question
somebody
mark.
today and do a video, right? But we want real people with our ums and ahs and, poking their eye when they're in the middle of something, because that is what connects with humans. The rest of the stuff is going to be more noise than we've ever dreamt of, because you're going to be able to do 100 posts a week by pushing one button. What's that going to do? But if Alan does one video going, but that's Alan. That's okay. That's Jackie. That's what we recommend, because going forward, it's going to be crazy, if not already.
Yeah, right. I didn't even think about that. With these videos, do you? Because I go into very like tactical mode. So like with the videos, are you also recommending like a some degree of a written component? And the reason I'm even asking or pressing for that is that like, what about search engine optimization, keywords, anything like? Where does that land
Yeah.
in
So let me
your?
so content creation. Let me start. So we went. First step was figure out who you are, what you want to be in the world, and your positioning. Right. That's kind of step one. Step two is what's the content that I want to create that reflects that. Right. So based on that, so let's use I like leadership. Well, there's 10,000 books on leadership. How do I break through that? So in my case, well, listen, I was in YPO. I traveled the world with YPO. I had global perspectives. So maybe mine is global perspective of leadership. Okay, good. That's my positioning because I was a global leader. I've traveled to 30 countries. I've met leaders from all over the world. That's going to be my little piece. So then my content is about, okay, leadership in several countries. Is it the same? That was a video. Then it could be firing people in. So is it the same? Communication, is it the same? And I'll give you an example. So did some work in China. And one of the things I learned in China was they don't like to give you bad news because it's the saving face part matters. So I had people that had bad news to tell me that 12 weeks later didn't. And then I finally found out and said, listen, you can give me bad news. I'm not going to, beat you up. And then, oh, okay, we'll do that. And even with that, they had difficulty. So there are perspectives in every country in the world on how they work. So that's an example of the type of content. And the way we break it down is this. Imagine you had a book, and the book was 12 chapters, because that is congruent with 12 months in the year, and say, okay, based on that, what are the topics I want for each month, each chapter, and what are the 4 subheadings I want to be able to do? You break that down and go, now I've got 48 on average topics for the whole year. Doesn't mean you have to do them all, but I got 48. Then I start recording in batches, and the way that I shared it was, what's the title, what's the hook, what's the story, and what's the one point I want to make sure I get across. And then I practice till I get it right. And I will tell you, the reason we do it in batches, because the human brain works well with repetition. So if I went to do 6 videos today, well, I've got a lot of experience now, I could probably bang out 6 videos in half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
A client might take an hour and a half to do it. My brain goes off at 90 seconds, and I know what it is because I've done 70 or 80 videos already. So I've got the skill to do that work right now. So that's what people are learning. Now, once they've learned that, now it's okay. Now I've had this content. What do I do with it? Great. You either get help or you post your video on LinkedIn. We recommend natively. That means post it natively,
Right.
research hashtags, keywords, all the things. That's where the marketing comes in. Once it goes from the video to LinkedIn, then just use best practices for that, tagging people and encouraging people to share and all that other stuff, right? And then we also recommend YouTube. YouTube is your friend. YouTube is where all your videos will go forever. Because LinkedIn is relatively transient, right? It goes away. But then you move them to YouTube and say, oh my God, I can actually get subscribers. And it becomes like my little channel, right?
Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
whole industry for that. But for regular people, they've got a chance, democratizing, back to your word, to now say, I can actually build a life here. Yeah, you can, in the context of what you want to do. So that's the second step. And of course, the almost last step is just be on and engage and consistent.
I was surprised
Be
also
out
to
there.
find. Yeah, yeah. I was surprised to find. So I'm tracking what you're saying regarding YouTube. I was surprised to find on LinkedIn, which I didn't expect because I don't post often, but just like how views can grow in time, meaning that like I had initially this perception around LinkedIn content where it was a little bit more like X or Twitter related, where it's legitimate, like, here one day, gone the next, and deleted or whatever. And in all fairness, I'm not an active Twitter user, nor have I ever been. So like I can't provide that context. But even I've been finding that like with certain LinkedIn content, it gets new life to some degree, and I'm sure it tapers at some point and their algorithm does whatever they do. But even though, let's say day one, let's say there's like 10,000, 10,000 views of it or 10,000 impressions, it kept going. Like I thought it would actually have a shorter lifespan, but it's kept going and it continues to grow slowly. I had it in my head that it was going to be something that was there today, gone tomorrow, and it hasn't been that. But to your point, YouTube is significantly a better channel for something to stay and live consistently in kind of one common interface. But yeah, like LinkedIn continues surprising, and even when I've been fed up some content from people that it thinks that I would enjoy reading about, I'll look at the timestamp for it, and it's like 6 weeks ago, and I was like, huh. Like you're
Yeah,
still
it's surprising.
suggesting content from 6 weeks ago. And I will say, I do kind of give this credit. And I think, our conversation is a little bit more around LinkedIn, mainly because I think like the whole leadership work component. But so, and I don't know how long ago, but the leadership with LinkedIn is actually one of their product guys is actually now the CEO, where previously was, I think, founder was Reid Hoffman, then CEO at some point for a number of years was Jeff Weiner. I don't know what his background is, honestly. I think there's maybe somebody else there at some point, but now it's a product guy, or maybe that was the product guy. And so I've been noticing a lot, like the functionalities change. And so it's definitely converting to more of like a more social media, less, I mean,
Yeah,
more social media in addition to recruitment and hiring and business stuff. Yeah, I think
because
it's a
remember
wonderful
what
platform.
Remember that this thought leadership brings them traffic, and traffic brings them ads, and that's the end of the day. That's the game, right? So they make their money with their recruiting platform, but they're making their money with the more views. So people who are posting are actually helping that. So and remember, right? The old adage: if you're not paying for it, you're the product, right?
Now,
That's the reality, right? So, but you can, buy premium, right? And that gives you access to other features should you want to really dive into LinkedIn in a very deep way. For the most part, you can do most of your work without premium. But if you're doing it for sales, then it becomes another adjunct to the things that you can do in addition to other tools that you can use for lead gen and the like. But it is critical to understand because the views, people think they're vanity. They're not vanity. There's a lot of stuff that happens inside those impressions, especially if they're going up. Your engagement's your engagement. It's 9%, 10% of the people that will do that. 90% are lurkers, are voyeurs.
yes,
They'll
I've
see it.
noticed that. Yes.
That's the truth. And I have a validation of that my business partner hates because she hears it so many times. But I go to a lot of events and I always get, I love your videos. That's great. I love what you're doing. I'm saying,
You've
but
never commented
you
on
know
anything. Who are you?
nothing. And then would you like to comment? I'd love you to do that. And they don't because human nature is hit and run. There he is. That was a fun video. I got to go.
Yeah.
That's the reality. But
Yeah.
if your views are going up all the time, you're making a difference and you're making an impact. And you know where the leads and the podcast, that's where they come from.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
who've seen your stuff and like you. That's what happens. So that's the game.
Yeah. Who do you feel like is doing it really well with personal branding from a business and leadership standpoint?
Well, I mean, there's so many
Yours or
great examples,
otherwise, like
right?
your clients or otherwise.
Well, but see, there's I would call there's a category that I will, that the biggest of the big. So Gary Vaynerchuk and Richard Branson and all those folks, right? They're now both thought leaders and celebrities, and so they have a different strata, pardon
Yes.
the pun, to do that. But they do really well. Now they have a team. You gotta really just understand that you're not going to do 15 posts a day and a day in the life and all those other things because then you have a real life. These folks are different. Like Alex Hermosi is an example, right? He does all his own content. He has a studio. He has his own style. And so God bless him. He's authentic because he dresses a certain way. He doesn't conform to other stuff. Vaynerchuk with his language, same idea. Richard Branson, completely different persona, right? But all of them impact people and reach people in a big way. So I think they're all doing a wonderful job because they know who they are and they're expressing it. And some, like Richard Branson's not doing it because of the money. Like
No.
he's not. He doesn't need. And Vaynerchuk arguably maybe not, but everything he does is part of VaynerMedia and all the other things he's doing. So it helps everything he's doing. Hermosi, everything he does is helped by the content. But he sells, but he gives first. Let me teach you how to handle that objection. Let me teach you how to do that proposal. And then people go, "What's Alex? I need some help. I will work with him." So he doesn't oversell, but you know that he's an expert in a certain way. So I think those folks do an amazing job. But what I want everybody to take away from this is you don't have to be those people and aspire to be those people because you already have an audience. Jackie, you said it earlier. You didn't realize you had an audience. You have an audience. I have an audience. Those are those people we've built relationships with over the last 10, 15, 20 years of our lives. If you're 20 today, hopefully by the time you're 40, you've got 5, 6, 7,000 people in your network now that is in your corner to a certain degree. Don't, just accept everybody's, connection request, but that's the idea. Now you have a network and it's digital and it's one to many and one to one. I didn't have that when I was growing up. Now this tool is incredible if you nurture and you give and you leverage it for what the tool is all about, which is helping people.
Yeah. Do you feel like what does personal branding? Because I was going to ask like, oh, any potential poor examples, but the reality is, I
Yeah,
think it's hard to even acknowledge poor examples. But what does a poor example
a
maybe
lot.
look like?
There's two I'll give you two that come to mind, and I shared it earlier. Is somebody who thinks they're doing personal branding by sharing company content and literally sharing it. I'm sharing it and I'm saying, here's our latest press release, and it's going to my 2,000 people.
Boring, boring.
That's not personal branding.
No.
Boring, but companies think that's good because it's distribution for them, right?
Yeah.
but it's not
It's
landing
these vanity
anywhere.
metrics. It's such a garbage. It's the PR newswire. There's relevance to it, but it's just like it's just republished.
But even the challenge of something overly graphically done beautifully, as soon as someone sees that, they think marketing.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
are they going
Yes.
to
Yes. Yes.
trust that? They're not. So even in our video work, when we do the videos, we say we're not doing any crazy editing. I mean, we'll remove a couple of ums and ahs and stuff like that, but there's no B-roll, there's no, big flashy stuff at the beginning. It's your face because they're going, oh, it's Alan, it's Jackie, it's Frank, whatever it is. That's what we want to do. So we've learned that over marketing doesn't work. On YouTube, you have to have a thumbnail because that's how the thumbnails work, right? The other example that's poor is look at me. Look at how good I am. I just won this. I'm the best. That stuff turns people off like you can't believe. And if you approach social or LinkedIn or personal branding as I am going to give and give and give, I think that even Gary Vaynerchuk's book was like that, jab, jab, something was. It was all about you give first and I'll give you everything. Like I'll give your folks, here's a worksheet we use, go use it. If you're the right kind of client, you'll come back and go, Alan, I like that. It's helpful. If not, I'm inspiring people to get out there, which is my why. So that's okay. I'm achieving my why by giving everything away. If you want to do it on your own, knock yourself out. Please do it.
How do you think
Yeah.
people can avoid just common pitfalls or like how to avoid? Is there, I mean, do you have like a guiding principle to like avoid a landmine of whatever it may be?
The simplest thing is that we kind of touched on both. If you're truly a giver and you want to deliver great information, that's kind of step number one. Don't promote, don't sell, right? Very important. Be consistent and celebrate others. What I mean by celebrate others is go comment on other people's stuff. Why? It's selfish because they'll feel like they have to comment on your stuff, but it also helps the algorithm. But it also helps the algorithm go, Jackie's alive. She's really active, delivers your content better. So there's those things I think are the pitfalls. And if you're really truly not altruistic is it, but you're really truly a giver, people see that, right? They feel it. That's why we love video. Can't fake video. You're gonna like me or not, right? If you like me, great. If you don't like me, fine. Your decision is now made. You interpret stuff. You're writing blogs that nobody reads. Why are you writing blogs? It's good for SEO and park that. I just see that as more supplemental to what you do. I do write blogs, but video is my primary. I do fun little quotes every once in a while, and then I write blogs once in a while. The blogs don't get a lot of action, but they're helpful for SEO. So we do them. They help drive traffic to our website. Great. So depends on your goals, right? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the future of personal branding even look like? I feel like AI plays into us a bit.
AI scares me in terms of people seeing it as the holy grail. I'll have more content. Yeah, you will. But if they don't care about your 2 videos, they're not going to care about your 30 videos. And you're just going to upset people. Are going to go, I'm sick of seeing this person's face because every time. So go back to the principles of delivering good value. If you do 1 or 2, like we recommend 3 pieces of content a week, kind of plenty, right? We could argue you could do 5 posts a day because of the way the algorithms work, but that doesn't fit into the normal cadence of a life, right? You just can't do that. AI can do that for you. And if you're looking to only generate leads, then that might be a great way to go. I just don't go at personal branding to me, personal branding is building trust and building relationships. Stuff comes from that. You'll generate leads from that, but if you're focused only on leads, then it's kind of not personal branding. It's just on the edge of marketing. Nothing wrong with that, but be very clear. We like to keep it really pure, but we're going to lose that battle over time because AI is going to run it over. But we're going to keep fighting as long as we can to be authentic because that's the game we believe.
We've been talking a lot about leadership, but what something you said just now kind of made me think about young people kind of getting into creating like their own personal brand. And I think there's probably an enthusiasm that can sometimes lead to just being a little over aggressive potentially for somebody that's looking to build their personal brand and is at say their earlier career junction point. What would you like? what would you say is a great start for them?
So first thing is let's distinguish between the influencers that are out there doing an amazing job selling stuff and building brands and right, those are there's
Yeah.
a ton of those, right?
Yeah.
And there's also a ton of side hustles. So that let's park those for a moment. If we're talking about someone who's looking to build their career, I would encourage them, first of all, not just to be lurkers on social, but to actually contribute to the dialogue of people they admire. One of the things we recommend is, as you know, on LinkedIn, there's a little bell on everybody's profile. And that little bell is you click on it so you'll be notified when someone posts. So go find 10, 15 people, maybe your CEO, maybe a VP, whoever, and you say, I want to follow their stuff, make sure I get it. And don't look like a suck, but go comment on when they do stuff and say, oh, he's really insightful. You'll get on their radar,
Right.
right? And in fact, you might do that for competitors. Not that I'm saying that's a good thing, but maybe it's because you want to be in touch with industry. Maybe you won't comment, but you want to pay attention to what's going on in their world. Because in this case, change is your friend. If you're not going to be in a career like the old days where you're in for 25 years. You're in for 3 to 5 tops. So you need to be on top of that industry so you can be. So I would say do that. And if you feel good about it, start to experiment with content. You may not get a lot of traction, but when people check you out, they're going to see that stuff and they'll be able to make a determination. It's not, the red cup on the beach when you were, 18 at university, because that's not great. But on LinkedIn, it should be all professional, right? And so showcase yourself professionally because even at, like we had, this blew me away. An 18-year-old from a country called Moldova
Okay.
reached out to us and we helped him build his personal brand and coach him. My first question for him is, you're 18.
You're like, what do you know?
And he said, well, he's been in business since he was 14.
Oh my
He's
gosh,
had
yeah.
3 businesses since he was 14. So we helped him with strategy. He's got his DNA. He says, I'm good. And off he went. And he's great. And
I
we're
love
always
it.
here to help him. So
I
that's an
gotta tell you, I'm
example of,
always jealous of those people that like have such clarity in like their direction.
I know,
I've
I
mentioned
know.
this actually on another call, another podcast. A friend of mine, she always knew just growing up that she's like, she always wanted to be a dentist. And I was like, so she just slowly but surely just kind of took the path of what she needed to do to get to dental school. And she's a wonderful dentist now. I don't know. What a gift to know. I don't understand that reality, but I think it's a gift. Oh my God.
Most of us fall into life, fall into careers, right? And fall into choices, right? And so what I love about personal branding, and I know let's not overdo it, but when you have reputation, that's what matters in the world, right? Your reputation follows you everywhere. And if your personal brand's in great shape, great. But if you need to move it, in my case, I had a great personal brand, everything was fine. If I did nothing, life would still be good. But I'm saying, but I have a new mission now.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can change
Now it's
and do
changed.
different things. Yeah.
Right. And here we go. We're going to rock and roll. And I want to be a bit of a role model for older people that say, you can have a startup at, okay, I'll say my age now. You can have a startup at 65. It's okay. You're not dead at 65. You don't have to retire at 65, right?
Well, did we miss anything?
Well, I'll share one. I love quotes, right? There's our quote we get from everybody. Actually, I just posted that quote on social this morning. The number one question we get from all of our clients and prospects, why would anybody listen to me? That's the number one question. And the answer is what you think is normal, somebody else might find fascinating.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So so if you think of give first, know that you have a story, your job is to help unlock it or get help because there are lots of people that can help you unlock it. And then if you do nothing with it, that's kind of a shame, but at least you know and you can turn it on at any time in your life because it's a career that lasts 40, 45 years, sometimes 50 years. If you're 20, wouldn't it be nice to know what you know now and do something with it as opposed to, I got to learn this again at 45? Because in 45, it can be a whole new world, whatever. I don't know what it's going to be. I'll be dead by then, but who knows what's going to be.
Yeah,
But the opportunity to connect with people and make a difference is incredible.
absolutely.
It's incredible.
Alan, you're
Yeah.
such a pleasure. Where can people follow you or find you?
So LinkedIn, number one, Alan McLaren. And if you can connect with me and tell me or follow me and just say I heard you on Jackie's podcast, that'd be great. Our website is strataoriginals.com. And my email is alan@strataoriginals.com. And reach out either way and just say, listen, I'd love that worksheet. I'm happy to send it to you. There's some videos you can go watch and learn more.
Alan, I'll raise my hand. I want the worksheet. Send it to me. I want it right now.
Person, Jackie. All right.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Join the Idea Citizen LinkedIn group and share this episode with a friend.